All right. Well, hey everybody. My name is Yuki. This is my channel, and there are a whole lot more of you than there were 2 weeks ago. And I just want to say hello and thank you for all the support on that One Piece video. It really means a lot and has really blown my mind and just left me absolutely flabbergasted. So thank you and welcome to the channel. And I hope that we can have some discussions about some anime because that's what I want to do. But the reason I'm doing a video in a format like this and not my usual essays is because there are a whole lot more of you, and I really wanted to get something out quickly after the success of the previous video and not leave you guys waiting. And I was working on a Mob Psycho video, but the script ended up taking a little bit longer than I was anticipating. I haven't even started the editing process on it yet, and I really wanted to get something out soon after the success of the previous video. And so that's what this is. Unfortunately, it's another One Piece video, or fortunately for you guys that like One Piece. I didn't really want to do two One Piece videos back to back, but this is where we are. So what we're going to be doing is breaking down a One Piece theory iceberg. I scoured the internet and found this one. I'll put it up right here. It's about 3 years old, so there is some old information on it, and some of the theories are stupid, and I'm not covering them. Like the last one is Luffy is the One Piece, so not happening. But I will cover some of the ones that I think are cool, and I have some personal theories about these theories, and so I'll add my own little spin onto them, and I think I have some interesting thoughts and discussion points about One Piece. So that's why I'm doing this video. Yeah, thank you guys so much for the support on the previous video, and let's jump into it. So entry number 1 is that the One Piece is the friends we made along the way. This is a classic theory, suggesting that the One Piece is not an actual piece of treasure, but rather Luffy and the Straw Hat crew will reach Laugh Tale, and there won't be a treasure per se. It'll just be the journey, and it'll be a giant metaphor for how we should treasure our friendships and all that good stuff. It's pretty convincing if you don't really know any of the context surrounding One Piece and are just kind of a casual fan, because of one, Goldie Roger said that he obtained everything the world has to offer, and you can see how that can tie into just, well, friends are the most important thing. And what was very convincing for me for a long time was that Whitebeard said the One Piece is real in a classic scene, and it's when he dies surrounded by his entire family. And I saw that scene and I was like, oh, it really could be. It really could be. Luckily, Oda has said and confirmed that the One Piece is an actual valuable piece of physical treasure. It is not just some metaphorical, the One Piece was the friends we made along the way kind of thing. The next entry on the iceberg is that Crocodile was a woman. This is a very popular classic theory for One Piece fans. And the more you look into it, the more convincing it kind of is. The theory states that Crocodile used to be a woman, and that Emporio Ivankov used his ability to transition Crocodile from a female to a male, and that's the Crocodile that we know now. The reason that this theory even exists is because Ivankov said in Impel Down that he knows something about Crocodile that Crocodile doesn't want getting out, and used it to blackmail Crocodile into supporting them. So you can see how fans kind of jumped on the train of Crocodile used to be a woman. And in the live action One Piece recently, Inaki Godoy, the live action actor for Luffy, said in an interview that his favorite cameo in the opening sequence was Crocodile. He got in a little bit of trouble for that, and so it led fans to scour the opening sequence of the One Piece live action. And of course, the only person that even resembles Crocodile in the slightest is this lady. So take that how you will. Entry number 3 is that the characters are references to real life people, or that at least some of them take physical inspiration from the appearance of real people. This is not really a theory. This is just obviously the case. If you look at Ineru from Skypiea and compare him to Eminem, it is just obviously Eminem inspired the design of Ineru. Next is like Hulk Hogan and Whitebeard. Once again, pretty clear reference and inspiration taken. And you cannot tell me that Kizaru doesn't look like Adam Sandler. once you see these, you will not unsee them, and there are about a gazillion of them. So this iceberg is a couple years old. I think it's about 3 years old. But this entry says that One Piece will end in about 5 years. This is likely just a nod to how many times Oda has suggested that we're in the last stretch of One Piece. Although recently it has seemed like we're getting there. We only have about 3 arcs left. After we finish Egghead, we've only got about 2, maybe 3. Yeah, we're nearing the end of One Piece. So maybe now One Piece will end in about 5 years, 5 to 6 years. Although, if we go off of what this iceberg said 3 years ago, he said it would be ending in 5 years. That'd be 2 years from now. I don't exactly see that happening. But we are nearing the end of One Piece. Another fun conversation piece is Dragon's Devil Fruit. This has been theorized by fans for a very long time, mainly because we have not seen a lot of Dragon, and we have seen even less of his ability. The only thing we really have to go off of when theorizing about Dragon's Devil Fruit is his entrance into Logtown and his interaction with Smoker when he saves Luffy. We see this gust of wind, and that's about it. So common theories about Dragon's Devil Fruit is that he has the Wind or Storm fruit. I personally find this to be the most convincing because we've heard a lot of talk about how the D will cause a storm again, and Dragon, the revolutionary, causing a storm, having the storm fruit. We know that Oda really likes to personify themes in people through their powers. Don Flamingo is a popular example of this. So I think the Wind, Storm fruit is probably the most convincing. I have seen people suggest that he has the mythical Zoan type Thunderbird fruit, because the symbol on the side of his face looks very similar to the symbol of the Thunderbird. I'll put it up here. I personally could see this, but I really don't want this to be the case. I think the mythical Zoan type is a cool thing, and if we start handing them out freely to everybody, then it will detract from the value that they have. But regardless, whatever Dragon's Devil Fruit might be, it will be very interesting to see. Next up is Buggy's true power. Now, we all know that Buggy is the strongest character in the One Piece universe. Jokes aside, even though it's not really a joke, Buggy's Devil Fruit could be ridiculously strong. If he awakens it, he could have the ability to just slice anything and control it from anywhere, which would be incredibly broken. A theory that I saw that I really enjoyed was that if Buggy awakened his fruit and was able to chop anything, he theoretically could chop atoms and basically be a walking nuclear explosion. I don't know if Buggy would be smart enough to try or do this, but regardless, Buggy's Devil Fruit could be incredibly strong. Next up is another one of my top 3 favorite theories of all time, and that is that Tashigi is Kuina. This theory states that Tashigi, Smoker's assistant, is actually Kuina, who is Zoro's childhood friend. I find this theory incredibly compelling because Zoro recognized Tashigi as Kuina when they first met, but Tashigi did not recognize Zoro. Obviously, we know that Tashigi has glasses now. Both Tashigi and Kuina were swordswomen, and we know that both Tashigi and Kuina share their passion for swordsmanship and swords in general. And the way that Zoro and Tashigi play off of each other is very reminiscent of how Zoro and Kuina played off of each other. This theory states that instead of Kuina falling down the stairs and dying, rather Kuina fell down these stairs and went into a coma and lost her memory, and that the head injury she received from that made her need to get glasses, or she always needed glasses, and that's why she fell down the stairs. And if she forgot everything that had happened to her and all of her life up to that point, it's possible that Zoro's teacher could have lied to Zoro and told him that she died when in fact she didn't, just so that Zoro didn't have to live with the fact that his friend would not remember who he was. I don't know. I find it really convincing. I really want Tashigi to turn out to be Kuina. That's one of my top 3 favorite theories ever. Next up is Zoro's eye. We all know that Zoro lost his eye at some point during the time skip. We do not know how this was done or how this happened. Obviously, it probably happened during training with Mihawk. Could have just happened when he was fighting the monkeys. Aside from that, we really have just no idea how it happened. This one just says Iceberg. I don't know what that means. It just says Iceberg. I assume this is referring to the character Iceberg, but cover stories. This is in reference to the cover stories that show up at the beginning of manga volumes. Usually Oda includes these fun side stories that give us a little bit more information about the world of One Piece. For example, we got to see Ace on his search for Blackbeard. We got to see Ineru on the moon and with a bunch of little minion guys. We'll get into that later. But yeah, so this is just cover stories are little pieces of information that help expand the story of One Piece. And they're usually considered canon. I don't think any other cover stories are not canon. Anytime we see a cover story and what a character is going through or doing, it's usually indicative of what is actually happening to that character. Weird laughs. Yeah, characters in One Piece laugh weirdly. I don't know if there's anything deeper here, but joy and laughter are a really big part of One Piece, so it's possible that the weird laughs have something to do with it. Something I've always found interesting is that Doflamingo does not have the same weird laughs of some of the other One Piece villains. I know there are other characters that don't have nearly as goofy laughs, but yeah, weird laughs. Characters laugh weird in One Piece. Another kind of just bog standard one is the taste of devil fruits. They taste bad. Everybody that we see eat one is like, ew, yucky, and that's kind of it. I find this one a little funny. Off-screen deaths are always fake. It's kind of a joke about how if we don't see a character die on screen, that usually means that they didn't die. I don't know how I feel about this because there are characters that I'm pretty sure after Wano are not alive anymore. If you know, kind of thing. But we don't see those characters die on screen. But, you know, who knows? Yeah, I can't particularly think of an example where we see where a character dies off screen. Given actually some recent stuff in the manga and even in the anime in Wano with Absalom, he died off screen. Yeah, off screen deaths are not always fake. Next up, we've got the unnamed devil fruits of One Piece. This is just referring to some of the devil fruits we don't know the name of. Obviously, Monkey D. Dragon's devil fruit we don't know the name of. We don't know the name of Jewelry Bonnie's devil fruit, even though we have seen it a few times. And we don't know the name of Aruge's devil fruit. Next up is God Usopp. This is in reference to what happened in Dressrosa when Usopp was held up by the giant and he was viewed as a deity for being the savior of Dressrosa. And this led to Usopp getting a much higher bounty than he anticipated. Next up is a bit of a controversial one. We've got Shanks' connection to the world government. This is a reference to the Reverie arc where we see Shanks kneel before the Gorosei, and we don't know exactly why he was here. Now, there are a few theories. A very popular one is that he is related to Garling Fagarland. This is the king of God Valley. We know that from Film Red and the manga chapter that was released alongside it, that Shanks was found on God Valley as an infant. As far as I can tell, this is just a theory. If I missed something in One Piece Film Red, let me know, because as far as I can tell, they're not, we can't confirm that they're related or have any connection. But my personal favorite theory is that much like the Seraphim on Egghead Island, there's a clone of Shanks operating for the world government. We have seen in the manga and the anime a few chapters or episodes where Shanks was shown with 2 arms, but that may just have been an error. We don't know. But that's my theory, is that Shanks has another little buddy running around there and working for the world government. Some also think that Shanks and or his clone is a member of the Holy Knights, because we saw the silhouette of the Holy Knights and the mainstay silhouette looks a lot like Shanks. There's no denying it looks a lot like Shanks. But it could obviously also be anybody else. So next up is the Three-Eyed Tribe. This is in reference to the tribe of people that Charlotte Pudding comes from. Now, Charlotte Pudding was a half-breed, so she didn't have pure Three-Eyed Tribe blood. But we know that Big Mom was wanting to use the powers of the Three-Eyed Tribe, which is the ability to hear the voice of all things, which would also be the ability to read the Poneglyphs, because we know that Goldie Roger was able to read Poneglyphs just because he had the voice of all things, even though he didn't actually understand the text. But right now, we haven't heard much of the Three-Eyed Tribe. It was really just Charlotte Pudding, and that was kind of the last we heard of them. Moving on to the next entry, it's that Blackbeard has multiple personalities, multiple bodies, or an abnormal body. This is all in reference to the fact that Blackbeard was able to eat 2 devil fruits, or somehow get Whitebeard's devil fruit powers. Marco suggests that it's because of his abnormal body. There is a theory regarding eating 2 devil fruits on this list, so I'm not going to get too deep into it. I think this entry is just a misinterpretation of the scene with Luffy, Zoro, and Blackbeard when Nami says, "Who was he?" and Luffy says, "They." That's a common misinterpretation that means that Blackbeard has 3 personalities or 3 bodies, but I don't think that's what that scene was inferring. Although we do see that Blackbeard's Jolly Roger is 3 skulls. He also, classic, has 3 pistols on his hip. So could just be design choices, could be foreshadowing to a secret about Blackbeard. Next up is the 4Kids dub and censorship. This is not really a theory. This is just that the anime, and specifically the 4Kids dub of One Piece, had to censor some things for children. They turned cigarettes into lollipops. They turned guns into water guns. Although the anime does have a few noticeable instances of censorship that are different. Zeph eating his leg is one of them. And there's also just more detail in the violence in One Piece's manga. For example, Whitebeard getting the side of his face blown off, whereas in the anime it was just his mustache. But the 4Kids dub was made for kids, so the censorship there kind of makes sense. Next up is 12 crew members. This is an interesting theory, and it's that Luffy will have 12 crew members by the end of One Piece, ending with 13 Straw Hats total. This theory exists because in the East Blue Saga, we saw Luffy pick up Zoro, Nami, Usopp, and Sanji, and moving into the Grand Line, first half of the Grand Line, the Paradise Saga, we see him pick up Chopper. And then moving into the first half of the Grand Line, we see Luffy pick up Chopper, Robin, Frankie, and Brook. And then going into the New World, we've seen Jinbei, and then potentially 3 more. So that would be 4 people in the East Blue Saga, 4 people in the Grand Line Saga, and 4 people in the New World Saga. We don't know who these 3 next members could possibly be. Popular picks was Yamato or Carrot, but we know that's not the case, unfortunately. Some people have suggested that Vegapunk could join the crew. I don't really want that to happen, mainly because I just don't really like Vegapunk all that much. I mean, he's a cool character. I just don't see him joining the Straw Hats. Some people have suggested Jewelry Bonnie after Egghead. Not sure about that either. My personal pick for who the next Straw Hat is Vivi. If you've read the manga, you may know why. There was a secret revealed about Vivi, and I think that will play into her joining the Straw Hats again. Could just be copium on my end, to be completely fair with you. I really want Vivi back on the crew, like probably more than anything ever. So that's my theory. Vivi's joining the crew. Vivi's the next Straw Hat. I called it. Next up is Joy Boy's message. This is a reference to the message left behind by Joy Boy at Fishman Island. This was an apology that Robin read. This was also the first mention of Joy Boy at all in the show. And it was an apology for breaking his promise to move the Noah, probably to integrate fishmen into society. For whatever reason, Joy Boy was not able to move the Noah, and he apologized for that in this message that he left behind. Next up is that Usopp's lies become true. This is a reference to a lot of the stories that Usopp lied about in Syrup Village with Kaya actually turned out to be true. A big one of these was the dwarfs in Dressrosa, the Cerberus in Thriller Bark, the dragon in Punk Hazard. Usopp has a tendency for his stories to become truth. And I think this might play into a later theory on this iceberg about who the narrator of the show is, but we'll get to there later. Next up is Raftail or Laugh-Tale. This is the final island which holds the treasure, the One Piece. It's called Laugh-Tale because Goldie Roger and his crew landed there, and when they saw it and they learned the history of the world, they just laughed. This caused him to name the island Laugh-Tale, We don't know what, obviously, the One Piece is, but for whatever reason, there was something about it that made Goldie Roger laugh and say that he wished he could have been alive at the time of Joy Boy, but unfortunately, he was not able to. Next up is the Will of D. This is a very well-known through line of One Piece. There are a few things that the people who inherit the Will of D have in common. Obviously, the letter D in their name is a big one. You have Monkey D. Garp, you have Portuguese D. Ace, you have Monkey D. Luffy, you have Monkey D. Dragon. So there are a lot of people that have this D in their name. Law says that the D will cause a storm once again. We know that the D are the enemy of the gods, at least the celestial dragons being those gods. A common through line with people that have the Will of D is that each person dies with a smile on their face. We know that Luffy, when he was about to die, was smiling. Ace, when he died, was smiling. Saul, when he died, was smiling. Or when he didn't die. Is Saul dead? Saul's not dead? Oh, that's right. Saul didn't die, but he was smiling. Next up is Zeph ate his own foot. This is not really a theory. This just happened in the manga and didn't happen in the anime. But yes, Zeph smashed his own foot with a rock and ate his leg in order to save Sanji because he gave Sanji all the food and kept the treasure for himself. And yeah, it was just simply censored from the anime. Quick cringe warning here. I say Pluto instead of Pluton for the entire duration of this next entry. The Iceberg has it written down as Pluto, and so it showed up in my notes as Pluto and not Pluton. I know it's Pluton, but I was tired. I'm sorry. Moving on to tier 3, we have Frankie can build Pluto / Sunny is Pluto. Now, we obviously know that Frankie has the ability to build Pluto. He destroyed the blueprints. I don't think he actually lost those blueprints forever. But the Sunny is also definitely not Pluto. We know that Pluto is, spoiler warning for Wano, we know that Pluto is under the land of Wano. So the Sunny is not Pluto, unfortunately. Another really interesting theory here is Doflamingo's eyes. This is a theory about Doflamingo's eyes that states that he's actually blind in one of his eyes and that his dad made him wear glasses to hide the fact that he was blind in one of his eyes. These celestial dragons obviously view themselves as deities or gods. And so any imperfection that could be seen as a defect, they may not want that, and they may view that negatively and may even require that those children that have these defects or celestial dragons that have these defects be killed so that nobody knows about these defects. And the theory states that his dad didn't want this to happen because we know that Doflamingo's dad is a kind and compassionate person. And really the only evidence for this is that Doflamingo's Jolly Roger has a slash going through one of the eyes. Could just be a design thing. But we also don't ever see Doflamingo's eyes except for one panel, which I'll put up right here. And one of his eyes looks pretty damaged. Now that could just be because this happened during the part where he was hanging up and he was already hurt and injured. But regardless, it's possible that Doflamingo is actually blind in one of his eyes. Doesn't have a whole lot of bearing on the story, but I think it's interesting. Next up, we have the SBS information. SBSs are basically just AMAs, Ask Me Anythings, where readers can submit questions to Oda, and Oda will answer them at a section in the end of each volume. These answers are usually regarded as canonical, meaning any little bit of information we get from Oda can help the story and world get built even further. These range from the characters' heights to their favorite foods to even family trees. For example, we learned about Zoro's father in an SBS, which is just a little strange if you ask me, but we learned about Zoro's father in an SBS. Moving on to the aquatic Zoan types. Now, this has been a discussion in the One Piece community for quite a long time, theorizing about a Zoan type that could turn you into some kind of aquatic creature. The reason this is such an interesting discussion is because we obviously know that devil fruits remove your ability to swim. And if that's the case, then theoretically an aquatic Zoan type would be useless, or it would break that and you would be able to swim, or it would allow you to breathe underwater. There are a bunch of different discussions about this, or just none of the above could happen and you just wouldn't be able to use your devil fruit because of the sea prism in the ocean, and you just would drown. We do know of a character with a devil fruit that is an aquatic devil fruit, kind of. We know that Kaido and thus Kinemon have the fish fruit, although it is a mythical Zoan type fish fruit. It's technically a fish fruit. Yeah, so Kaido and Kinemon are the only examples of an aquatic devil fruit that we have, unless you count Senor Pink. Next up, we've got Mary Joie's National Treasure. Doflamingo mentioned that there was a treasure underneath Mary Joie that if he had the Perpetual Youth operation, he could take over the world. How Doflamingo knows about this? Probably because he was a celestial dragon, but we, as viewers, have no idea what this could possibly be. We have seen a few instances of Emu in the inner areas of Mary Joie. There's no saying if these have any actual connection to the national treasure, for example, the giant straw hat or that weird garden area that we saw Emu in. Next up are the moon automatas and the space pirates. This is a reference to a cover story that I had mentioned earlier, where we see Ineru go to the moon after the events of Skypiea. We see him go towards the endless Verth, which appears to be some kind of moon. And in the cover story, we see him interacting with these like space pirate moon alien things. And interesting side thing, they kind of look like the dwarves from Dressrosa, so it's possible the dwarves from Dressrosa are actually these moon space pirates come down to Earth. But yeah, we see him building technology and rallying all these space pirates, and so it's possible the next time we see Neru, he's got some mech'd out space dwarves with him. Next up, we've got Panda Man. This is a character that Oda throws into the background of his manga as Easter eggs. We've seen him a few times in the anime as well. That's about it. He just shows up. Sometimes he's a fun little panda guy. Tier 4. I don't know why this one is so low on this list, but it's the Going Merry is a living being. Obviously, the Going Merry is a living being. I don't know. Was I the only one that inferred that from what happened with the Going Merry? Yeah, so this is not particularly a theory, as it's confirmed that ships can develop a will and a soul. The Clabater Man, which appears later on this list, I don't know if I cover it, is an incarnation of this soul. Yeah, the Going Merry absolutely did develop a will or soul of its own, and that's what made the Going Merry sinking so sad. So I don't know why this was so low on the list, but yeah. Giant Straw Hat. This I kind of alluded to earlier. This was inside of Mary Joie is the giant straw hat that probably potentially was worn by Joy Boy 800 years ago. And we see that Eam has some kind of infatuation with it to some degree. Once again, this was probably Joy Boys, but we can't be sure. For whatever reason, straw hats are another through line of the history of One Piece. So I could have sworn that I mentioned this, but apparently I did not. The fact that the giant straw hat is, giant, probably means that it belongs to a giant. So this is the leading evidence for Joy Boy having been a giant, which makes Elbaf even more important. Moving on to the 10-year lifespan loss. This is in reference to Ivankov giving Luffy an adrenaline shot at the cost of Luffy's lifespan. This was during the Impel Down and Marineford War arc. There are a few other instances in the story of One Piece where Luffy sacrifices his lifespan, but I think most of them can be explained away from the reveal of what Luffy's fruit actually is. For example, Gear Second, people thought was actually damaging Luffy and hurting him because that was what was suggested by Bluno in Eni's lobby. But I think that probably isn't affecting him, or at least not anymore, given that we know what Luffy's fruit actually is. However, I do think that this operation did impact Luffy's lifespan to some degree, because I don't think this was supposed to happen to Luffy. Luffy's body was not prepared for this, but we won't really know until the end. Next up are the VCard data books. These are a collection of information drops that come directly from Ichiro Oda. They are very similar to the cover story and SPSs. They appear on the Library of Ohara website. I really highly suggest checking them out. You get a lot more information about the characters and story of One Piece, but yeah, it's just more information for you guys. Next up, we got Big Mom eating Mother Caramel. This, once again, is less of a theory and more of just an implied canon event. During Big Mom's backstory, we see during one of her hunger pangs as a young orphan, she began eating indiscriminately what she thought was treats and sweets, but it is implied that she ate her fellow orphans and Mother Caramel. Yeah, this is kind of just an implied canon event. Next up, we've got Chopper's Rumble Ball. I'm not really sure what this is referring to specifically, but Chopper's Rumble Balls are unique because, in theory, Luffy could use them now that we know that he's a Zoan type. How this could affect Luffy, we have kind of no idea, but I do think it would be very interesting to see Luffy pop a Rumble Ball and just speed blitz an Admiral or something. We don't know, but it would be very interesting to see how a Rumble Ball would affect Luffy and his body. For the first entry into Tier 5, we have the Devil Fruit Tree. This could be a reference to quite a few things. What comes to mind immediately are the Smile Fruit trees from Dressrosa. Could also be theorizing about a tree that grows devil fruits naturally, but I don't think this is what that's referring to, because we know that devil fruits just kind of pop up wherever they want. There's no specific tree that grows devil fruits. At least I don't think there is. Devil fruits have a bit of a will of their own, as we know. And so, with some of the information we got from Egghead Island regarding devil fruits, I don't find it very convincing. That's just me. Although we do see devil fruit trees in the form of smile trees from Dressrosa. This one is kind of a weird one also. Multiple Sky Islands. Not sure what it's referring to. There are, of course, multiple Sky Islands. We obviously know this. There was the Sky Island that we went to in Skypiea. There was the Sky Island that Nami got sent to. There was the Sky Island that we see Arouge and Kaido on during the Dressrosa arc. Yeah, there are multiple Sky Islands. We know this. Katakuri's Devil Fruit Reccon. This is a reference to Katakuri's Devil Fruit being retconned from a Logia type to a Paramecia type. This is probably just because it's kind of hard to convince somebody that mochi is an element like Logia types are. Logia types are supposed to be elements. Katakuri's Devil Fruit is a mochi fruit. And so it kind of just makes more sense for his Devil Fruit to be a Paramecia type, even though he's able to control his body much more similarly to a Logia type. It's also possible that this was changed because Logia types have a different type of awakening effect that we don't know. I'll get more into the awakening effects later down on the list. Next up, we've got inanimate object Devil Fruit users. So throughout the show, we see multiple Devil Fruits that were eaten by inanimate objects, primarily the Elephant Sword from Enies Lobby and the Dog Rocket Launcher from Alabasta. It's possible that these can only happen with Zoan type fruits, because we know that Vegapunk is responsible for these weapons, and Vegapunk has a unique knowledge regarding devil fruits that are Zoan types because he cloned Kaido's Zoan type devil fruit. It's possible that this can only happen with Zoan type devil fruits and that you can't have a devil fruit be eaten by a sword with the chop fruit or something, for example. But it is so certainly possible that this can be used with something that is not a Zoan type, but the only time we have seen inanimate object devil fruit users are Zoan type devil fruits on the inanimate objects. Next up, we've got Captain John's treasure. Captain John was a part of the Rocks Pirates. We see him in Thriller Bark where Luffy finds the key to his treasure. This key eventually makes its way into Buggy's hands, and we can assume that he found it because the next time that we see Buggy, he is rich and has started an organization of basically Navy Marine hunters. So we can assume that he started this organization with the treasure he found from Captain John, although it's possible that Buggy was just never able to find Captain John's treasure, but I think him finding it and starting this business makes the most sense. So next up on the list, we've got race hybrids. We've seen a few racial hybrids in One Piece so far. Pudding is the most well-known example of this, although there are theories that Kaido and Yamato are half Oni. But yeah, we've seen similar hybrid discussion in recent Egghead Island events with the reveal of the Seraphim, specifically with the Lunarians and stuff. So yeah, I feel like the racial hybrids are going to be seen a lot more moving forward in One Piece. Next up is the awakening. So we're finally here. The awakening happens when one's mind and body catches up to their power. This was confirmed by Kaido. And the effect of an awakening depends heavily on what the devil fruit type is. So Paramecia types are able to affect the environment around them. Zoan types have an increase in physical attributes. And mythical Zoans seem to get additional effects, giving them the ability of the mythical creature that they embody. Kind of what I mentioned earlier in regarding Katakuri, we haven't seen a Logia type awakening yet. So it's possible that these have a unique element related awakening that is unique to the Logia types. King was an Impel Down jailer. This was a cool theory, but I think the more that you look at it, the less convincing it is. King can be seen wearing some very Impel Down-esque clothes, as well as Queen mentioning that King has an affinity for torture. This has led some to theorize that King has a relation to Impel Down or Magellan, but as we learn more of King's backstory, how he's a Lunarian, I really doubt the world government would just let him run around without having tests done on him or experiments, whatever we see happening to him in Kaido's backstory. So yeah, and we also know that King was with Kaido for a very long time, so I doubt there was ever a period in King's life that he was not with Kaido, but an Impel Down jailer. Unfortunately, doesn't make very much sense, but it is really cool. King is wearing Impel Down style clothes. Next up, we've got Kaido being a world government experiment. This theory is totally possible, as Kaido's Devil Fruit is the first one to be seen as a successful clone done by Vegapunk, and Momonosuke gets it in Punk Hazard. So surely at some point in Kaido's life, there was a point where he was being experimented on, and he got his lineage factor extracted. I think we'll get into the lineage factor later. It is a little hard to see Kaido being caught and allowing tests to be done on him, because we see him allow himself to get caught and then just escape after he's gotten his food or whatever. So it would have to probably have been done from a younger age, or a very specific circumstance where he somehow got caught for whatever reason. But it is certainly possible that Kaido was a world government experiment. Next up is Ohara's globes and its several moons. So the solar system of One Piece can be seen in the Ohara Library. We see a replica of the solar system in One Piece, and there are several moons and planets surrounding the Earth. Some have suggested that these moons are inside the atmosphere, and that's why Ineru could breathe when he went to the Endless Verse or the moon. And that's how the dwarf space pirates are breathing on the moon, is that it's just inside the atmosphere. But it's also just possible that there's no connection there, that it's just some unique thing. It's also possible that that's the case, but it also just doesn't matter. But moving on, we have the giant egg in Roger's ship. We see a giant egg on Roger's ship during a flashback scene, but this has not been explained, although there are several possibilities. One is that this is a dragon or a sea king that was found on God Valley and has now hatched, been communicated to by Goldie Roger with the voice of all things, and is now patrolling the area around Laugh Tale and is defending the One Piece, protecting it, waiting possibly for Goldie Roger to return, even though he may never be doing that. Next up, we've got Alabasta's second Poneglyph. This is a reference to the Poneglyph found by Luffy, Zoro, and Chopper in the desert of Alabasta. It would be really fun to theorize about the second Poneglyph and what it could possibly be. But this took place during a filler episode and has not been seen in the manga, so there's probably no meaning to it. It was a filler episode just alluding to the Poneglyph. Kind of a weird thing to include in a filler episode, but yeah. Next up, we've got eating 2 devil fruits. This is a huge mystery in the One Piece universe. As we all know, Blackbeard has multiple devil fruits, which should be impossible, as it's said that you would die if you had 2. So either Blackbeard has some kind of trick to get his second devil fruit, maybe combining the devil fruit with a ring, as we were talking about with the inanimate objects and their ability to eat devil fruits. Potentially Blackbeard learned this and was able to get a ring or something to inherit Whitebeard's devil fruit. That is a cool theory, but my personal theory, my favorite theory, is that the world government is just lying about it, that it's just completely capping, and that there's no side effect about eating another devil fruit. If that's the case, then as the world government, it would make sense to probably not want to tell anybody, because then anybody could become a very dangerous threat to them. And they would like to keep that information to themselves and have just a bunch of devil fruit abilities. Or it's just that Blackbeard has a particular trick or body type or whatever. We don't know, but I'm very curious to learn more about it. Next up is Laugh Tale's eternal log pose. So in One Piece Stampede, we see Luffy smash a log post that led to Laugh Tale. However, this is just not canon, and it's highly unlikely that Roger actually made a Laugh Tale log post, just because that is way too valuable / dangerous, and also just not the kind of thing I see Goldie Roger doing. Next up is the All Blue. The All Blue is a legend within the One Piece universe, and it is Sanji's goal to find this mythical ocean. It's called the All Blue because it supposedly has fish from every ocean in it. This has led to several theories about how Sanji is going to find this ocean. One possible explanation is just simply that this ocean exists as a self-contained thing near or at Laughtail. But another possibility is that the only way to find this ocean is to create it by destroying the red line that separates all the oceans of the One Piece world. This leads into another theory that we're going to be getting into shortly regarding Fishman Island. So keep this in mind. I'll come back to it. Next up, we've got Green Bull's fasting. Green Bull is one of the admirals of the Navy. We haven't seen very much of him. We saw him in the manga, and in Wano is probably coming up. But he and Fujitora replaced Aokiji and Akainu during the time skip. Green Bull has abstained from eating food for the last 3 years, but he said he would consider breaking his fast if an attractive woman would feed him. Now, we don't know why or how Green Bull has been able to do this, but I theorize that this has something to do with his devil fruit, which is the forest or wood fruit. Maybe he just has some ability to photosynthesize and just get energy from the sun, which would be a really cool thing if that's the case. But for whatever reason, he hasn't been eating food for the last 3 years. Next up is one of my favorite mysteries that I almost completely forgot about until recently, and that's the Florian Triangle monsters. Back in Thriller Bark, we see these giant unidentified entities in the Florian Triangle. We have no explanation for these. They do seem to resemble Emu at least a little bit. We see some unexplainable powers from Emu in the recent chapters, but yeah, we really don't know what these Florian Triangle monsters are. Could they have something to do with Emu's abilities? Could they have something to do with the weapon that we've seen used in the recent chapters of the One Piece manga? We don't know, but Florian Triangle monsters, don't forget about them. I almost did, and I really want them to come back, so keep them in your guys' public consciousness. Moving on to tier 7, we have Kuro and Krieg and Arlong's fate. The last time that we saw Kuro was during the Logtown arc, where he seemingly hadn't let go of the grudge he had against Luffy. We know that Kuro found a shack in the East Blue and is spending his days with about half a dozen cats. We learned this in a recent cover story. We know very little about Don Krieg and the aftermath of the Baratier, but we do know that Gin stated that after breathing in that much poisonous gas, that it would be possible that they wouldn't live long. So it's possible that Don Krieg died shortly after leaving the Baratier. Next up is Arlong, but we really don't know where Arlong or his crew was taken to. Wherever they were taken to, Hachan was apparently able to escape, as we see him in the Fishman Island arc later. Yeah, the only person that we know is like actually okay is Kuro, which I think is interesting. Next up is the movie characters canonicity. This is a topic that can be kind of confusing for new One Piece viewers, as none of the events in the movies are canon, but certain movies have characters that are canon, and certain characters from the movies are canon. So Shiki, for example, from Strong World, is canon as he's a member of the Rocks Pirates. And Uta from Film Red is Shanks' daughter. Not a lot to talk about here, but I will be talking about Uta later because she's related to one of my favorite theories ever. Moving on to the narrator's identity. I really, really like this one. This was what I was referring to about the Usopps lies, because one of the most popular theories is that Usopp is one of the narrators, or is the narrator. That is if he is a character at all. Some have suggested that it's either Brook or Usopp, like I just mentioned. The theory is that Brook is telling the story long after the Straw Hats have died, because Brook has the ability to live forever. And if Usopp is the one carrying the story on after the end of the story, then that's why we see stuff like the God Usopp thing. That's why we see his lies come true. Basically, any feat from Usopp could just be attributed to him embellishing the story a little bit. I don't think that's the case. I don't particularly think that the narrator is a real character, but there is enough evidence to suggest the narrator is a real character. The biggest moment that comes to mind for me is the narrator actually lets a spoiler slip during Dressrosa. The narrator at the end of Dressrosa suggests that all of the characters in the Straw Hat Grand Fleet would be embroiled in an incident that we couldn't possibly know just yet. Although it is entirely possible that the narrator is just a narrator, not a character. But I feel the moment in Dressrosa is often forgotten, And I'm really excited to see what this moment could possibly be, because that means that we guaranteed get to see the Straw Hat Grand Fleet yet again. Another easily forgotten moment in One Piece is the predictions made by Charlie and Hawkins. So I'm going to take these one at a time, but this entry is referring to the moments when predictions were made regarding Luffy that we have not seen the fulfillment of just yet. We'll start with Charlie. She was the mermaid who was a fortune teller in Fishman Island, and the story made a big point about the accuracy of her predictions. And she mentioned that Luffy would be the one that destroys Fishman Island. This caused basically all of the conflict from Fishman Island. But we never got to see him destroy Fishman Island. He left Fishman Island in pretty good condition. So my theory about this, it kind of goes back to the all blue theory, which is that Luffy will end up destroying the Red Line and or Mary Joie, and thus this would cause the destruction of Fishman Island, which could also be the catalyst for integrating Fishmen fully into society. But Mary Joie is right above Fishman Island. If an attack happens on Mary Joie and the Red Line and Mary Joie fall down, then yeah, we see the destruction of Fishman Island in theory. Next up is Hawkins. His prediction was in Wano. He suggested that the odds of Luffy and Zoro being alive a month after the prediction was made is about 19%. It's possible that this could just be taking into consideration the entirety of Wano and Egghead Island, which would probably lower the odds of survival a lot, considering how many incredibly strong enemies there are and how many people they fight. And this prediction is regarding both Zoro and Luffy being alive in a month. So we know that Zoro got into a bit of a scary situation after fighting King, and it's possible that the prediction was actually fulfilled and we see Zoro kick the bucket in that scene where he meets the Grim Reaper after fighting King. But it's also possible that Zoro made a deal with the Grim Reaper to get out of that situation. We won't know until the end. We know Zoro isn't a fan of telling people about his sacrifice with the nothing happened scene. So it's possible Zoro made a deal with death there and that we won't know until later. But it's also just possible that they just beat the odds here and they're just both fine. And we also know that Luffy died during his fight with Kaido, so it could just be a reference to that too. Next up, we've got the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia. These would be theoretically books that contain information about Devil Fruit, or at least known Devil Fruits. We actually know a few instances where these were used in One Piece. For example, we know that Sanji was looking for the clear fruit so that he could turn invisible. And the only reason he knew about its existence is that he read it in a Devil Fruit Encyclopedia. We also know that Blackbeard was looking for the dark fruit, as he admits that it was something he wanted. And it's possible that he got this information from a Devil Fruit Encyclopedia and learned about something that made him want that fruit specifically. But we haven't actually seen a physical copy of a Devil Fruit Encyclopedia just yet. Next up is Shanks and Machino having a baby. This is one of my favorite theories ever, or at least relates to one of my favorite theories ever. And this theory suggests that Shanks and Machino had a romantic relationship and had a kid, which of course is possible as they had an emotional connection with each other, and you can tell that just from the way they interact. But a bit of side theory here, I think Shanks had a relationship with someone with white hair. Because when we see Uta, she has half red hair and half white hair. So it's possible that Machino is just one woman that Shanks has had a kid with. And the reason I point out Uta and the red and white hair is because I think that Koby is Shanks' son. That's my favorite theory in One Piece ever. I think it's the most convincing because Uta, red, white, combine red and white, you get pink. Koby physically resembles Shanks more than one would expect. And we also see Shanks showing up to save Koby in the Marine Fort arc, although that's possible. It's just a coincidence. But nonetheless, if Uta's hair is anything to go by, then it's possible that a different kid would have a mix of his parents' hair colors, which would be pink. Therefore, Koby. So that's my favorite theory in all of One Piece. All these other theories could bite it. My favorite theory is that Koby is Shanks' son. That's all I need. And Vivi to join the Straw Hats. Vivi joining the Straw Hats. Shanks is Koby's dad. Those are my two favorite theories. One of them has to be true. I'm calling it. Next up is Zunesha's punishment. This is something I think a lot of One Piece fans, including myself, are really excited to find out about. My best guess is that Zunesha Joy Boy, and that cool robot from Egghead were all responsible for an attack on the world government, and Zunesha wound up punished for it. Now, we don't know why Zunesha would have to obey whoever administered the punishment. Our best guess would be the voice of all things, as we see Zunesha requires Momonosuke to give her a command. But my personal theory is that Zunesha survived the attack that Joy Boy and that cool robot made against the world government, and that Zunesha was commanded by Joy Boy to wander the seas to keep the minks safe and to keep Zunesha safe. And Zunesha simply views this command as its punishment for its weakness, not that it was an actual punishment for a crime that it committed. Both of which are possible. This could also just be one of the world government could just have control over Zunesha for a reason that we don't know. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. I'm actually really curious about this one. And finally, we have Tequila Wolf's true purpose. This is one of the few One Piece mysteries that I have literally no theories or opinions about. I have no idea what this could possibly be for, nor why the world government would spend so long making it. We know that it was being built for about 700 years and still isn't done yet. Yeah, Tequila Wolf was the bridge that we saw Robin get sent to. For whatever reason, the Revolutionary Army is interested in the bridge, or at least has people there. Yeah, some theories suggest that this is an ancient weapon. I kind of doubt it, because if it's an ancient weapon, wouldn't it have to be done? And it's not done. It's been built for 700 years. So my best guess is, we know the Void Century was 800 years ago. My best guess is that this is a response to the attack that Joy Boy and Zunesha and the cool robot launched against the world government. But yeah, that's it. I'm not going to cover the last section because it's just not interesting. I don't even have it written down in my notes. Let me pull it up. Yeah, Luffy's mom. I've heard some people say it's Crocodile. Oda is an immortal god. Roger's dying words. I really have no opinions about anything on the last part of this list, so I'm not covering it. It's just kind of boring. I think all the stuff I covered is way more interesting. Sorry if I skipped over something that you wanted to see. These were just the things that I saw on that list that I thought were interesting and wanted to cover. But yeah, this was just something fun to do. I really just wanted to connect with you guys, let you guys see my face. It's a little weird, like I said, knowing that there's 900 of you now on the other side. It's kind of mind-blowing. Yeah, I mean, the success of the previous One Piece video has just been absolutely insane. So thank you guys so much. Sorry that this is not my normal kind of content. Usually essay style videos, or at least analysis, is what I'm going for. So this isn't exactly falling under that list, but I really didn't want to have to spend time gathering clips, and this was kind of just an easy thing to do. But yeah, I wanted to get something out quickly for you guys. If this video doesn't do well, whatever. At least you guys got to see me spend some time with me. Let me know what you guys thought about it down in the comments. That really helps the algorithm a lot, apparently, because the algorithm liked the last one. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Mob Psycho is going to be the next video, so subscribe if you want to see that, if you're not already. And then just let me know any suggestions for anime you guys would like to see me analyze. There are a few manga that I have lined up that I really want to talk about. I'm rereading one of them currently. I've got another anime lined up that one I'm finishing, and then one queued up after that. I think you guys will like some of the stuff I have planned. I will try to get it out quickly for you guys. Yeah, thank you so much for the support on the last video, and just the support in general. Some really nice comments were made on that previous video and the community post that I've made. Yeah, you guys can find me at yuki.wave on pretty much anything. The only exception is X or Twitter. It is yuki.waveyt. But yeah, yuki.wave pretty much everywhere. Yeah, Discord down in the description, as well with all my other links and stuff. It's getting late. It's about 4:43. So in the morning, sun's not up yet. As you can see, I'm dying. So yeah, once again, thank you just so much. And I'm glad to go on this journey with you guys. Yeah, thank you so much, guys.